We often look up to the stars for answers, but we are suggesting you might look down for a change. We are handing you a terrestrial telescope and inviting you to go ground gazing with us. What do you see? Cropped plants, ink spots of water, open mounds of tufted earth. Dive deeper, there is a world beneath. A festival of exchange, a body that brings balance. Peatlands are rich constellations where we can discover ancient histories, cultural heritage, and essential ecosystems. Their wisdom can help us to learn more about the world we live in and how to make it a better place together. Hi and welcome to Buried, the third episode in a Bogcast series made for Peat-Fest Southwest. We are hosting loads of events where we will come together to creatively share knowledge and raise awareness about peatlands. In this episode, dusk falls as we sink into a timeless territory. Plants thrive under the sun's supervision, and when they pass, their energy is buried with them. Grave goods, preserved in their place in layers of sunken sun, accumulate over millennia, forming a rich underworld. But people from the world above seek to find and use this energy, digging and looting the carbon hoards, disturbing burial sites, and releasing destructive forces into our planet. This week, we will explore the buried worlds contained in peat. We will look at how peatlands can store huge amounts of carbon, preserve ancient life forms, and sustain current ones. We will also think about how we can encourage non-intrusive relationships with peatlands going forward.
Found something. What have they found? Spider! Wow, a spider!
I used to love coming out here. All times of year, you heard birds, you heard the curlews. Frogs down in the valley, they're calling out. Fantastic.
That side is the starling murmurations. They're one of the largest in the UK, I believe, and we get some really important assemblages of dragonflies as well over the summer. So from April to September time, lovely dragonflies come out here.
It must be really magical.
Can you see things right now, Toby?
Yes, now.
See so much?
What can you see?
Trees and bushes.
Yeah?
I can see lots of grass and bushes and trees and lots of flowers. Good night. I can see some dark oak.
Yeah?
Trying to encourage them that it's not just a boring walk. There's stuff to see, there's things to do. You just have to look for them. I appreciate it's a podcast, you can't see it, but when you look around, it looks very bleak and windswept. But we went for a walk a minute ago to go and find the best route up to the monument that we're going to, and the amount of things you can see, you can see water springs and all that sort of stuff and all the nature that thrives off it. You just have to look for it, but to see it, you've got to be there.
Look at them very closely. They've got almost lots of little tentacles on them, and then they're very sticky on the end. So if a fly or something lands on there, it will get stuck and it will die.
Peat deposits up on Dartmoor can be up to around 9.5 metres deep, and if you think that on average peat forms 1 to 2 millimetres a year, 9.5 metres of peat is thousands and thousands of years old.
Dartmoor, it's a protected landscape. It's got huge amounts of archaeology there, dating back thousands of years. It's got extensive Bronze Age landscapes, probably some of the finest in Europe, landscapes of medieval tin mining as well.
Where the sand was down, when we got into the peat sand, some of these big trees must have been ash or, birch or...
So these are ones that were buried in the clay, were they?
In the peat.
Right.
Little great trees. So some of the first trees that ever grew here is under the peat here.
So when you were taking that down, underneath the peat there were trees
Yeah.
before you got to the clay.
Oh yeah,
Right.
that fell over, over the
Yeah.
thousands of years. I don't know.
Things up to the size of trees, tree roots, or whatever. In some bogs you find bog bodies. We've not found any in the southwest yet, but never say never. But what else is preserved is that record of the environment, often in the form of sort of microscopic material like pollen, the spores from fungi.
What happens in our peat, that dark soil, is that things don't break down, they stay. And we had a big stone grave that we found in Dartmoor, and in it was a skin of a bear.
I think one of my most exciting finds was at the Rattlebrook Peat Works, this Victorian industrial peat cuttings, and I found in one of those cuttings what seems to be a prehistoric standing stone. It's one of those things that I love about archaeology, is those layers of activity, one on top of the other. So we must imagine this stone had been raised, 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, possibly in the late Neolithic period by our ancestors, and then peat had grown over it and covered this stone up. And then just a couple hundred years ago, probably less, it was exposed again by people digging away.
Bog bodies.
Well, one of the qualities of peat is that it will preserve organic things that would otherwise rot away. And one of the things that means that you can find in peat are bog bodies. That's human remains where the soft tissues, the skin, muscles, organs can survive.
In the Iron Age, there was a tradition of either burying or sacrificing people.
Really?
Watery places. Watery places are thought to be sacred. We find a lot of metalwork that was deposited deliberately, and not just lost in some places. So we think that they were worshipping at bogs, leaving offerings and things like that.
And very low down in that peat's eroding in places, and we can see bits of wood sticking out from that. So that's probably a Mesolithic forest. The Mesolithic is the Middle Stone Age, after the end of the Ice Ages, when our ancestors are living probably by hunting and gathering in those forests. But we think as well increasingly that they're altering the landscape around them as well. There's been some evidence in the past that maybe quite a lot of burning going on, and it may be that they're creating clearings in the forest, for example, to attract animals, for them to then hunt those animals. It may be as well, we find a lot on Mesolithic sites, we find a lot of hazelnuts. So maybe they're coppicing hazel. And what we're seeing there is, if you like, the start of agriculture, in a sense. We're realising that, hunter-gatherers aren't just reacting to the landscape, to the environment, they're changing the landscape, which of course is sort of all of human history, isn't it?
I think of how we're stood on history right now, in all its wet, thick murk. The past muffled under grass, the then, the now, the threatened potential after.
There's just lots of yellow grass and miserable looking sheep. But they've been extracting peat there for thousands of years, and they don't think they stopped until fairly recently. That probably maybe even between the wars or post-war. I think it's really recently they've been extracting the peat. You can see where they've extracted the big long strips of peat.
Well, the issue with that peat cutting, which we've increasingly realised today, is as it was being done, it was done in such a way so as to dry out that landscape. So the domestic peat cutting, which went on for many centuries, if not millennia indeed, those sorts of cuttings, as we see them today in the landscape, they tend to be long rectangular diggings which run downhill, so they drain. They often have ditches put alongside them to drain them out. The peat that remains, that hasn't been dug away, dries out. And as it dries out, it loses that organic material, it loses that carbon that's in it, and it loses that distinctive ecosystem, that vegetation of boggy plants and miry plants that like those wet, acidic conditions. And the same goes for the industrial peat cuttings as well. As I said, they cut lots of ditches through them before they did their digging of the peat, again, to drain the water away. Quite often it has cracks running through it, peat pipes we call it, which is again carrying that material away into the watercourses. So often that's why we see those rivers that look like a sort of a cup of strong black tea. That's that organic material being lost into the water.
Because the peat keeps drying out, and where they cut it, it creates these sort of headlands. The face of the peat, when it's exposed, then that dries out and that gets all gnarly, and then that drops off, then more peat dries out.
Has it changed a lot?
Very right, yeah, it's all gone down.
Yeah.
All gone down. Doesn't the same at all. When they tried to drain this lot, they dug a river. You see the stream. You look across that field, you see that line going across there in that field?
Oh yeah.
That's the river. They put the river in from over there. Hoping to get that river instead of going in there, go around there, but he didn't because he went so far and he went in the stones and come out in the pit.
Why did they want to redivert the river? Why did they want to?
Well, so they could drain this by the arch better.
And what else is being lost is that record of the environment and our interaction with it, which is otherwise contained within the peat.
I think his is actually quite cool, I have to admit.
Yeah, yours
And I'm
is
just
quite
adding these
cool.
gigantic teeth.
Oh my. Bogs feel like where I'd find a monster.
It does, doesn't it?
I wonder why though, because they're mysterious. Yeah.
Often people think that peat bogs are barren, empty, treacherous lands, places you wouldn't want to go, which keeps them from forming relationships with them. And I think that playing in them, using our imagination, can help us turn fear into something magical, fun, exciting and silly, so that we can be there and learn to love them.
A lot of the time, as archaeologists, particularly when we're looking at prehistory, we have to use our imaginations. There's a limited amount of information that we have. Peat and peatlands often gives up to us more information than we previously had, telling us about, as I've said, about the environment, about our interactions with it. But it's still up to us to try and fill in those gaps. And I think just as we take part in this act of creation and imagination, as we look at the strands of evidence we have about the past, about landscapes, the environments, and how we interacted with it, so perhaps as well those skills might be useful when we look into the future and imagine how landscapes change, environments change, climate changes, and how we interact and impact on those processes.
I've done some work up on Dartmoor on a peat and restoration project. It made a tremendous difference because when we were up there was January. I suppose January, February, it was really grim weather. It was really, really cold. And really, when it wasn't cold, it was really wet. And when it wasn't wet, it was snowing. And we had like one little hut just in the middle of the wilderness. And, well, like a tiny prefab hut. We could go and huddle in around an electric fire. But by the time we finished, where they blocked off, they made these little dams, and they did use logs as well. So they carried logs up, big logs about sort of that in circumference, maybe half a metre in diameter, and they just plonk those in along in a line, and they create like a sort of dam. And then when the water flows over those, they have another load of logs below them. So they had this constant series of very shallow dams, and by the end, they'd really flooded it. Yeah, made a real difference.
They're like those bouncy bugs.
Seeing the way the kids interacted with it all, I think it just makes it all worthwhile, doesn't it? I think it's been a really valuable day.
We have reached the end of Buried, our third Bogcast episode. Thank you for coming ground gazing with us and discovering the wonderful world beneath. We look forward to seeing you next time for a Bogcast about peatland activism and the incredible people fighting for climate justice through big and small actions. This episode featured an extract from The Earth's Thirst by Vanessa Kasule, who is a member of Hot Poets, a climate science and poetry organisation. Thank you to them for their amazing work. We feel privileged to have been able to make this podcast with funding from the Heritage Lottery Fund. Special thanks to everyone who spoke to us and helped make this happen, to the Art and Energy Collective and RE-PEAT, to all the other wonderful organisations involved, including South West Peatland Partnership, Dorset Peatland Partnership, the Avalon Marshes Partnership, the National Trust, RSPB, Wildlife Trusts, Dartmoor and Exmoor National Parks, Planet Purbeck, Cornwall National Landscape Team, and thank you to Otis Jordan for the beautiful music you heard. And of course, to you for listening.